Good morning to all. Now Priya Dhuria, PhD Research Scholar, Department of Physics, MRS PTU Bathinda. Again, welcome to you all for the second session of the first day of the Atal Online FTP on topic novel materials and their application. I heartily welcome our resource person of this session, Dr. Achelal Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Physics, Central University of Punjab, Bathinda. Dr. A.L. Sharma has broad area of research in the field of experimental condensed matter physics with sub area of renewable energy materials and devices, nano science and technology, lithium ion conducting membrane, lithium ion batteries, sodium ion membranes and batteries, EDLS, etc. He has obtained his PhD degree from IIT Kharagpur in the field of experimental condensed matter physics in 2011. Dr. A.L. Sharma has 75 publications with 40 papers in peer-reviewed journals and 35 in books or proceedings. He has delivered 12 expert lectures or talks on different topics of his expertise. He has guided 1 PhD research scholars and 4 are pursuing. In addition of the above, he has given research guidance to 7 research guidance to MPhil students and 21 MSc students. Dr. A.L. Sharma has also awarded with the Research Award 2020 by Central University of Punjab, Bathinda, and Best Paper Award 2015 in National Conference on Photonics and Material Science. He is a member of Indian Physics Association. So in this session, Dr. Achelal Sharma is as a resource person addressing us with his vision and expertise on the topic materials for supercapacitor applications. So now I request Dr. A.L. Sharma to start the today's proceeding of the second session. Dr. A.L. Sharma.
So thank you very much for such a nice introduction. So I am Achelal Sharma. So I am very much thankful to the patron, organizing committee member, and the coordinator of this online Atal Faculty Development Program. So now I am going to just share my screen, actually of this presentation. Then I'm going to discuss. So I'm going to present the. I'm going to presenting this here on a topic that is smart materials for the supercapacitor applications. Here I am going to present this topic in 2 ways, that is the smart materials, at the same time they are supercapacitor applications. So I'll discuss both the parts, the supercapacitor, from where it comes and what actually their uses in the different devices. At the same time, what are the type of materials which is useful for such devices. So those things just I am going to discuss in details. So if I go to this smart materials for supercapacitor application, then certainly the things origin arises from the energy sources. And if we talk the energy sources, then we can understand that right now we are using around 70% energy globally from the non-renewable sources. There are actually 2 types of energy available with us. One is non-renewable energy sources and second is the renewable energy resources. So this non-renewable energy sources till date fulfilling our 70% demands. So in order to just shift from this non-renewable to renewable energy resources, people are trying since last 2 to 3 decades. Why they are trying to shift to the renewable from non-renewable? Basically, there are 2 fundamental reasons. If I talk the first reason, that first reason is that these non-renewable energy sources are impacting our environment badly. If I said impacting our environment badly, means they are just improving the global warming, by which our weather, you can say weather conditions, everything is going to be changed. And second important things, you know that why we are shifting, that reason is, second reason is that the non-renewable energy resources, what we are looking so far here, they are having their own limitations. These sources are limited. Until we are, it is going to end or it is going to finish, we are supposed to make a parallel arrangement of these energy resources by which we can utilize. Our systems are not going to be in standby. If we see this pattern from changing from this non-renewable to renewable, then this non-renewable actually consists of fossil fuels, coals, natural gases, and nuclear energy. If you are shifting from here to renewable energy resources, what are the sources we are available? These are the solar power energy, the hydropower energy. They are having the geothermal energy. They are having the tidal energy. They are having the windmill energy. They are having the biomass energy. These energies are, you can consider, these energies are not going to impact environment. Rather, whatever the natural sources are available, from there we are utilizing or we are extracting the energy. But you see, since these are the naturally available, so for this reason, these energy resources are not continuous. Whatever this non-renewable energy sources we are looking, these sources are available on continuous basis. So what we are doing, we are producing energy and it is just utilizing on continuous basis. Means whatever energy is going to be supposed to be produced from the coal, that is from the thermal power plant, those energies are going to just transmit to the online grid, and those online grid having the management, they are going to send the energy on continuous basis to the consumer. But here, if you see if you are consider the solar energy, even this solar energy, solar light is going to get to the systems in daytime, but night time it is not available. Similarly, if you see the windmill energy, that windmill energy normally going to installed across the seashore. These energy also available when actually there is circulation of air is going on. Since in the circulation, if I used to say, then the sea level temperature is different, and above to sea having the difference, a circulation is going on, and due to that, fan blades are going to rotate, and from there we are actually generating the energy. So whatever sources we are looking here, they are actually for harvesting the energy. So far they are harvesting or producing the energy, but till they are producing at the same time, if you are going to utilize, then it's okay. But if you want to utilize when they are not producing, that time it is going to become difficult to utilize this energy on our requirement basis. Certainly we are supposed to develop a parallel system that is said to be the energy storage technology. And if you see energy storage technology, then certainly you can see these are the three energy storage technology conveniently, if you say, in a convenient fashion. At the same time, they are very robust and they are very easy to store the energy. These three systems are very much used. If we see the three systems, one is the lithium-ion battery, supercapacitors, and the fuel cell. If we talk about this fuel cell and this lithium-ion battery, they are storing energy in the chemical formats actually. And if they both we compare, then this lithium-ion battery is a closed system, and this fuel cell is a open system. In fuel cell, what's actually happening, from outer side, we used to provide the hydrogen and oxygen, and those hydrogen oxygen are going to react in between the chamber, and they are going to produce the vapor and energy. Those energy is going to be utilized by the systems, and this vapor is going to be just produced. People are working over here that whatever vapor is going to produce using the depletion. Actually, there is a water depletion research is going on. People are depleting the water. So on that basis, they are trying that whatever water is going to be out, they are supposed to be again depleted, and hydrogen is going to be taken again into the system, and similarly oxygen, by which it is going to be become in automation mode. So since this is the open system and this is the closed systems, so the comparison is not that much good. It is to be bulky in nature. So this lithium-ion battery and supercapacitor are the closed system. If in this two closed system we see, then here the supercapacitor having the advantages over this lithium-ion battery in a manner that this lithium-ion battery is going to store energy in chemical format, whereas this supercapacitor is going to store energy in the electrical format. So you can understand, if it is already stored energy in electrical format only, in order to deliver the electrical energy, it is not going to work anymore. They are going to deliver it as it is. Whereas in terms of the lithium-ion battery, if you see, they have to first convert this chemical energy to the electrical, and then they are going to deliver it. So normally, basically, they are actually standardized. Actually, it has come from the capacitors. Capacitor, if you see, capacitor is the general devices, what you learned from your, I think, higher secondary classes, that the capacitors are going to hold the charges, equal and opposite charges. They are going to hold on a conducting plates, and they are going to store in the static energy, electrical energy format, where in lithium-ion battery, that starts from the battery. So battery having the advanced development in this stage, this is said to be the lithium-ion battery is the advanced development in sector of batteries, whereas in sector of capacitor, advanced development is the supercapacitor. In a, if you 5 years or 10 years early, if you are going to ask what is the difference between supercapacitor and lithium-ion battery, then there were the very ready answer, and people used to say that if you are going to use the supercapacitor, wherever you are required the high power or high current you require to your device, you are going to use this supercapacitor. Whereas if you are requires the durable energy, not high power, but for a longer time use of the equipment, then you are going to use the battery. But now system has been changed. Supercapacitor have developed a number of properties with it, by which they are actually competing in light of energy also. So you can say supercapacitor is doing their own job, that is the power density, that is their high power delivery. At the same time, it is doing the job of even batteries also. They are actually used for the longer or for a durable purpose. This supercapacitor is going to be used. So if a point wise, I used to tell you that what are the advantages of the supercapacitor over the battery. So I can read it line by line, that it always having the low cost material, since you see the lithium-ion battery is the very costing material, and since you see lithium is the least abundance material, if I'm saying, means it's not available in the crust even, and it is available in a very least in a value. At the same time, the device is going to be prepared using supercapacitor is lighter in comparison to battery. It always giving the device to be in miniaturized shape. It's obviously, due to its property, is giving the high power density. It is giving the comparable energy density with respect to the lithium-ion battery. It having a longer life cycle, where it is in the case of battery, it is around 1,000. It is around million to even up to, you can say, for the 10 million people, you have seen that its life cycle. It is having the ultra fast charging. It is having the good performance even at moderate temperature, where batteries are going to be fail. Here, high current dischargeability it is having. It is going to work at the low temperature also. It is having the simple charging and discharging circuitry. It's actually having the fault in a convenient detection. So if the supercapacitor battery is going to be seen in a better way, then we have to go for the Ragon plot. This Ragon plot always going to be plot between the power versus the energy. This x-axis is energy density, whereas the y-axis is the power density. What actually happening here in this, if you see this energy density, if you see the fuel cell having the highest value of energy density, and earlier it was comparing with the supercapacitor that it is having the power density is very high, but its the energy density is very small. Then it is straightforward. It used to say that if you are going to use for high power or high current, then you are going to use the capacitors. But nowadays, this capacitor have shifted up to here. You say it has just gained a lot of value improvement in the case of this x-axis value, that is energy density, and it is somewhere competing this battery. You see, whatever the battery having the energy density between 10 to 100, the same value, this 10 to 100 watt-hour per kg is going to achieve by this hybrid supercapacitor even. So you can consider it is already having the high value of 10 power 4 to 10 power 6 watt per kg power. At the same time, the specific energy or energy density it is having in comparison, incomparable with the battery. So it is going to perform the dual purpose of batteries and its own of this their capacitor. So we are going to discuss some more details about this hybrid supercapacitor with taking consideration of this capacitor, symmetric supercapacitor and asymmetric supercapacitor. What are the different applications of this supercapacitor? So you can see it is having the consumer application, direct consumer applications. It is having the industrial applications. It is having the transportation applications. So if direct consumer, if you see, then direct consumer is going to utilize this supercapacitor in coming days in their digital camera. Even they are utilizing in digital camera, laptop, mobile, palm top, tablet, memory backup, inverter, kids toys and other different electronic gadgets. If you see the industrial use, then you can see whatever you are having the renewable energy resources which is to be harvesting the energy, in all places you can put this supercapacitor in order to store the energy. So you can consider in industrial each and everywhere where the renewable energy resources have been installed, at all places you can put this supercapacitor for the storage point of view. So these some important renewable energy sources like solar cell, windmill, stationary, this stationary fuel cells, these places where you are going to install this supercapacitor. At the same time, the supercapacitor is going to be used in different factories where as a robotics, it is going to be used as for automation devices. It is going to be used for the UPS. If transportation, you see, it is used for the heavy electric vehicles where cars, truck, bus are there, which is going to be utilized this supercapacitor. Two-wheeler, bicycle, actually mostly in heavy electric vehicles, it is going to be used for its drive, continuous energy supply at the same time to starting this engine. At the same time, it is going to be used for light hybrid, space rocket, local utilities. So this supercapacitor is going to be utilized each and everywhere. Apart from this agricultural sectors also, they are going to be utilized. If you see, since they have achieved the value of high energy also, for that purpose, if you are going to prepare this supercapacitor of in a energy in terms of 2,000 to 35,000 watt-hour, then they can be utilized. Since if you see, they are in thousand, they are as a specific energy. So energy just increasing the mass value, you can reach up to 2,000 to 35,000 watt-hour. And if it is so, then you can use it in heavy electric vehicles. For UPS, actually, this energy requires from 250 watt-hour to 10,000 watt-hour. Similarly, in the bikes, it requires 100 to 300. For medical equipment, it is 30 to 100. For the power tools, it is 50 to 90 watt-hour. For the laptop, 20 to 50 watt-hour. Tablet, it is 5 to 30 watt-hour. Similarly, smartphone, it is 3 to 5 watt-hour, and phones 1 to 3 watt-hour. So what I am going to tell you from here that this supercapacitor is going to use, this is the visual applications where you can see it directly that these are the places where they can going to satisfy the consumer need. Since we are going to talk about the supercapacitor, so certainly just I was thinking that I need to tell you something very basic about this capacitor. Since you see the capacitor is going to be defined by the parameter capacitance. Actually, capacitance is said to be the ability of any device to holding the charge. And that is going to be defined by the relation C is equal to Q over V. If you see this relation, then it may be sometimes misleading that this capacitance is directly dependent on charge. And this capacitance is means inversely dependent or inversely proportional to the voltage. So what actually things are here, you see, actually capacitance is certainly it's the ability to store the charge, but it's this potential is defined, if potential is large, then certainly number of charges are going to be more. So what actually here the reason I would like to say that this is the misleading if you are saying that it is directly to dependent on charge and inversely proportional to the voltage, this is not correct. Rather than any materials having their own capacitance. Capacitance of materials are fixed. Only capacitance of materials can be changed if you are going to change the medium. If I'm talking the medium, then what your medium you are just putting between the two electrodes. If you are going to change the medium, then and then capacitance is going to change, or you are going to changing the shape or size of the material. So never ever confuse that if you are going to increase the, you are going to put extra charge, or you are going to apply additional potentials and your capacitance is going to be changed. No, that's wrong. If you are going to increase the potential in similar fashion, charges value is going to be increased. So this capacitance is not going to dependence in Q and V, rather than it is going to depend on the medium of between the two electrodes and shape or size of the materials. That is going to be little more clear if you are going to come here. If you see actually in a supercapacitor, the capacitors inventions being done in the beginning from the spherical capacitors. In a spherical capacitor, if you see the spherical capacitor, if it is having the charge, then all if it is conducting sphere, then all charges are going to reside at over surface. So if you are going to measure the potential at its surface, then it is going to become Q upon 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught Q over R. If you are going to put this value here at potential, then you see this Q is automatically gone, and C capacitance is going to left with 4 pi epsilon naught R. This is a clear indication that this is depends on this medium and the size of the materials. But what actually deficiency with this spherical capacitor, since it was open system, so whatever the electric field lines were there, it was going out. Since electric field lines was going out, due to this reason, what's actually happening, the energies are not going to be stored, rather the energies are going to be at infinite. So that in that way, it is not going to be useful. If you consider it, if for 1 farad, if you are going to obtain capacitance from this using this spherical capacitors, then you see for 1 farad capacitance, it requires at least 9 into 10 power 6 kilometer radius isolated sphere. So you see, even our Earth radius is 6,400 kilometers. So you see, if we consider our whole Earth as a spherical capacitors, they are not able to give us a 1 farad capacitance. For that purpose, actually, this parallel capacitors comes into the picture. In parallel capacitance, if you see, all charges are, all electric fields are to be the bound. Whatever the electric field lines are coming, starting from this positive charge, they are going to end up with this negative charge. So what's actually happening here? If it is start from here, it is to be ending here, this becomes the close. Whatever energies are there, they are going to be closed in between these two plates. So here you are having the facility, or you can improve the capacitance value if you are using this parallel plate capacitors. If you see here in this parallel plate capacitors, then certainly you see the formula remains same. But if you are going to measure the electric field value for a infinite conducting plate, certainly you already aware its value is going to be sigma over epsilon naught. For infinite, it is considered, but you know very well that infinite is nothing, very long, large area. If you are going to consider a plate of conducting plate, they are going to give you the electric field value sigma upon epsilon naught, where epsilon naught is the permittivity in free space and sigma is the surface charge density. If just you put this surface charge density value, then it is going to become Q upon A, charge over area, and this is going to be Q upon epsilon naught. If you are going to look the potential and electric field relation, this is potential is equal to E into D. In this sense, if you see the potentials V into D, in that sense, if you are going to put here the D, then certainly potential value is going to become QD upon epsilon naught A. And if you are going to put this V here in capacitance, then certainly again Q is going to be cancelled out. it is going to be epsilon naught A over D. Again, you can consider that capacitance is not going to dependent on this QRV, rather this is the intrinsic property of the materials, and that intrinsic property is not going to be changed of applying this QRV, rather this is going to be changed if you are going to change the value of this permittivity, or you are going to changing the shape or the size of your material. So for this reason, now onward, I'm going to discuss little more about the material, since this property, capacitance, is the basic property which is going to be measured in the capacitance research, capacitor research or supercapacitor research. In that sense, we are going to more specific, more details, more discussion is going to be about the materials which is going to be used for the supercapacitor. You may consider it in the same fashion analogy. You may consider here capacitance analogy from the resistance. As you know, the resistance is never ever dependent on these potentials or the current. As you know, resistance is directly proportional to potentials and inversely proportional to the current, but this is not correct. Rather, resistance is a constant value which is constant of any materials, and its value resistance is going to be changed only and only if you are going to change the size or shape of material, then resistance is going to be changed. Since resistance comes, since potential is directly proportional to the current, so resistance is coming as a constant. So you remember, similarly, this capacitance is intrinsic quantity of materials, and those materials we are going to discuss. Before starting the discussion of this materials about the supercapacitor, let me tell you the schematic of this schematic diagram of this your supercapacitor. And the schematic diagram, if you see, it consists of 6 components, and it starts from the substrate. If you see, the first component is substrate, where on which you are going to put your all the devices, or you are going to grow the devices or fabricate the devices. And second component is obviously the current collector. It may be the aluminum, it may be the copper, it may be the nickel foam, whatever you are going to put, those current collector are required. In third components, you are having what you are coating of active electrode you are going to put over it. Those active electrodes are going to be as a third component. For fourth component, what electrolyte actually you are using? It's aqueous electrolyte, non-aqueous electrolytes, organic electrolytes, inorganic electrolytes, solid electrolyte, gel electrolyte, which types of electrolytes you are going to be used. That is the fourth component. And the fifth component is the separator. Actually, this separating these 2 electrodes, and they are avoiding short circuiting of these 2 electrodes. And sixth and last one is the piping. Piping requires the insulating materials which are going to make it isolate from the outer atmosphere. Thereafter, this taxonomy of supercapacitor means we have to discuss the classification of supercapacitor. What are the different type of supercapacitors are there? If we discuss straightforward, then supercapacitors are basically classified in 3 categories. That is the electrical double layer supercapacitor, that is the EDLC. Second is the pseudo capacitor. Third is the battery type supercapacitor. If you see the EDLC supercapacitor, they basically contains the carbon or their allotrope, like carbon foam, carbon aerosol, carbon derived carbon, activated carbon, graphene, carbon nanotube, maybe single wall, maybe the multi-wall. Those materials of carbon materials are going to fulfill the desire of EDLC type supercapacitor. Whereas if you see the pseudo supercapacitors, in pseudo capacitor, basically they are going to be fulfilled by the electrodes of metal or transition metal oxide or metal oxide, transition metal hydroxide, metal hydroxide, conducting polymer. These materials are going to fulfill the desire of this pseudo capacitor. These materials are falling in the category of pseudo capacitor. If you are going to prepare or you are going to synthesize lithium iron phosphate, lithium cobalt oxide, lithium iron silicate, sodium iron phosphate, sodium cobalt oxide, sodium iron silicate, similarly magnesium, aluminum, nickel, different types of, if battery type electrodes you are going to prepare, then they are said to be the battery type supercapacitor, or it is used to say supercapacity. Supercapacity, you can say them. These three types of materials, if you are going to introduce with one electrode of EDLC, second electrode of pseudocapacitor, then they are going to say to the hybrid supercapacitor. In similar wise, you can make it may be one pseudo type, other may be the battery type. You may make one battery type, other may be the EDLC. All these category, all these variations of asymmetry type electrode, if you are going to be used for your device of supercapacitor, they are going to say to be the hybrid supercapacitor. Asymmetry, if I'm saying that, I'm not saying that any materials you are going to take. I'm taking asymmetry of two different types of supercapacitor material. What are the two different types? It may be the EDLC, it may be the pseudo, it may be the battery type. The next, if we are looking these three types of materials, then it is a very essential that we must be get an idea that what are the mechanism occurs in between these three types of supercapacitor. If I start the EDLC supercapacitors or EDLC capacitors, if I used to say or describe their mechanism of energy storage, that is to be in EDLC, the static charges are going to be stored at the surface of electrode. Only the static charge is going to be stored at surface, and no redox reactions are going to occur. Means there are no any redox oxidation reactions are not going to occur in these EDLC type materials. If no redox reactions are there, then those materials are going to say that those materials are going to be used for the EDLC application. If there are the redox reactions occurs in the electrode materials, then those materials are going to say to the pseudo supercapacitor. And at the same time, if redox reactions are going to occur and migrations of charge carriers are going to be done, means charges are migrating from one electrode to other electrode or other electrode to first electrode, those materials are going to be said to be the battery type supercapacitor. So similarly, if you classify them, then you can say this double layer and pseudo is somewhere having the non-Faradic process, some parts of this pseudo. But in the case of battery and pseudo capacitors, they are having the Faradic. Means if straightforward, I used to say if Faradic is there, then they are the pseudo and the battery type supercapacitor, and if it is the non-Faradic, then it is said to be the EDLC supercapacitor. But remember, EDLC and pseudo is controlled by the surface control devices, whereas pseudo and battery is controlled by the diffusion control devices. So we'll discuss what are the surface control and what are the diffusion control, by which you are going to get little more clear about all these three different categories of the supercapacitors. You are going to get clear. So in this way, you are actually here in this three different category of EDLC, this pseudo and battery type supercapacitors. Here we are going to just classify based on basically three. We are just going to make you aware based on the three types of characterization techniques. That three characterization techniques are relating to the electrochemical properties or electrochemical application, and that arises from the beginning from the electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. If you see, if you are going to perform the electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, what you are going to find, this is the very peculiar nature. This is actually ideal nature. It's not going to happen always in your materials, but in ideal natures, it is going to be a semicircle. Thereafter, it is going to be a spike, and it may be thereafter going to become in this fashion if at lowest frequency. So here it is zero frequency, and here this is having the maximum frequency. So what's actually happening, if you are increasing the frequency, the response of this is said to be the Nyquist plot actually. Electrochemical impedance spectroscopy, this is said to be the Nyquist plot. Nyquist plot always being plotted in between the real part of the impedance versus imaginary part of impedance. So if you see in this real part and imaginary part, if they are going to give a semicircle, this is the clear indication that resistance and capacitors are in parallel combinations. So where it is going to cut the axis on left side, this is used to consider as a solution resistance. Where it is going to cut on the right side axis semicircle, this is used to say the charge transfer resistance. Means it is the resistance by which electrodes materials are crossing the barrier. And this is said to be the electrode electrolyte interfaces. This is said to be the electrode electrolyte interfaces that charges are going to be migrating, or they are going to offer the resistance. And this is actually the resistance. This is simple, perfectly capacitive behavior where charges are stored at the interfaces. So on this, if you are going to see this three types of materials, then you can see on the basis of EIS, electrochemical impedance spectroscopy. After looking the signature of this EIS spectroscopy, you can classify that your material is EDLC type, your material is pseudo type, or your material is battery type. You see, if their pattern is coming in this way, then it is used to say it is EDLC type supercapacitor is there. If your signature is coming in this types of EIS Nyquist plot, then you used to say this is your pseudo type materials, and you clearly use, and you can directly use the mechanism or analysis what you are used for the pseudo capacitor materials. If its nature is somewhere in this way, then you see this is used to say this is the battery type supercapacitor. Obviously, its signature is going to be changed with respect to potential, but nature remains same. If you are increasing the potentials, its value may shift little bit, charge transfer resistance may change. And at the same time, this slope may change with respect to the potential, but you see actual nature of this EDLC, pseudo, or battery type supercapacitors are not going to be changed. Similarly, if you want to see their cyclic voltammetry analysis, this is again a very powerful actually tools by which you are going to analyze that your material is of EDLC type, pseudo type, or battery type. These are the very, very important aspects that you are going to recognize your materials, that what the new materials you have prepared that is going to be used for the EDLC capacitors, or it is going to be used for pseudo, or it is going to be battery type based on their CV signature. If you CV signature, basically CV cyclic voltammetry is going to be plotted between current versus potentials at different stand rate. If it is going to give you a complete rectangular circuit, then it is going to say that this is EDLC type materials. If it is going to somewhere distorted rectangular shape, distorted, this is not actually something, but it is distorted somewhere, then this distorted is going to say you this is pseudo type. If your materials having a strong peak, that is the oxidation and reduction, the charging, when your materials are electrodes are your capacitor is charging at that time, so whatever peak is coming, that is said to be the anodic peak. And when it is coming during the discharging, this is said to be the cathodic peak. If this peak is going to come, then you are going to say that these materials are the battery type supercapacitor. This is a battery type supercapacitor. Similarly, on the basis of galvanostatic charge discharge analysis, also you can predict your new materials, what you prepared, they are of EDLC type, or pseudo type, or battery type. Just you see their signature. If they are having just linear relationship, straightforward, you say your material is of EDLC type, it is having is this shape, then you can say this is pseudo one. And if this is to be of this battery type, then it is to be the this shape, then it is to be battery type. But remember, in case of EDLC and this case of pseudo capacitors, we used to measure the capacitance. But in case of battery type supercapacitors, or at some extent, sometimes in pseudo also, we used to measure the specific capacity. We will discuss this capacity and capacitance in between our discussion. These electrodes, what just I shown you, just as a idea for your idea of three different types of supercapacitors. These electrodes are basically used, or they are actually performing their role in the capacitance. Actually, capacitance is going to be controlled by these electrode materials. But at the same time, you see, apart from this capacitance, potentials are also going to play a very huge role in terms of the energy density and power density. So for energy, potential part, to improving the potentials, we are going to look the electrolytes. Since in schematic of supercapacitor, you have seen they were having the active electrode, they were having the separator, they were having the electrolyte. So electrolyte is actually responsible for the potentials is going to develop in the supercapacitor. So this electrolyte may be of aqueous. If they are aqueous, they may be the acidic, they may be the basic, they may be the neutral, and they are just responsible for all these factors. So you can understand these electrolytes also being, this is their taxonomy, that how electrolytes, what are the different types of electrolytes are available, which is going to be utilized for the supercapacitor applications. Those electrolytes may be the liquid electrolyte, maybe the solid electrolytes, which are quasi-solid electrolytes. It may be redox active electrolytes. So all these electrolytes category are there, and they are going to be used. This is your duty, that you are going through the literature survey. You are going to find out what electrolyte is suitable for you, or you are going to do a hit and trial, and thereafter you are going to optimize that which electrolyte is good for your system, your device supercapacitors, and you are going to exercise those electrolytes. If liquid electrolytes I used to talk, then liquid electrolyte may be the aqueous electrolyte, maybe the non-aqueous electrolyte, liquid electrolyte. If aqueous, I used to say they are actually offering a very low value of viscosity. They may be the acid materials, they may be the basic materials, they may be the neutral materials, they may be non-aqueous liquid electrolyte, they may be the in nature of organic nature, maybe the ionic liquids, it may be the mixture of organic and ionic liquids both. If solid state or quasi-solid we see, then it may be the inorganic, it may be the gel polymer electrolyte, it may be the dry solid polymer electrolyte, whatever it is. At the same time, for redox active electrolytes, they are actually going to be play a role of oxidation and reductions. They may be the aqueous, they may be the organic, they may be the ionic liquid, they may be the gel polymer electrolyte, they may be the solid polymer electrolyte. Whatever, this is your duty, that you are going to find it out, what materials, what electrolyte is going to suit to your system. For a just general purpose, since what electrolyte we have prepared, since we have prepared the for a paper, we have just prepared solid polymer electrolyte, and reason of this preparing this solid polymer electrolyte was that it is going to serve the purpose of separator, as well as it is going to serve the purpose of electrolyte both in a solid format. This is a solid film is there. It is going to serve the purpose of electrolyte as well as separator. So just we prepared using that blend polymer. This polymer were polyethylene oxide and polyvinyl pyrrole. So these two polymer, blend polymer, we are just going to dissolve in the methanol, and thereafter stir it, and after stirring for 12 to 24 hours, and thereafter just we are putting is the sodium hexafluorophosphate salt over it. Again, continuous stirring is there, and then after we just put it on the hot plate in order to further rotations, and then it is going to be poured over a petri dish. Actually, this is pouring is going to be done, and after pouring, this is going to be cast, and it is going to be put over the hot plate in order to evaporate whatever the methanol present in this composite films. And that freestanding films are going to be become ready as it is to be shown here, and this is going to be cut a shape where it is going to be utilized for the supercapacitor application. It is going to be used for the fabrication of supercapacitor. So this is already being done, and this is just this technique is used to say the solution cast technique. This is a very simple and robust techniques, and it is going to be utilized in order to prepare the solid polymer electrolytes. So in the same lineup, as we said, the electrode is actually, this is the parameters, actually performance parameters is there for any supercapacitor applications. So if in performance parameter, we used to say, then whatever active electrodes we are preparing, those active electrodes are actually responsible for the specific capacitance. Although with respect to this active materials of electrode, there are different plot or setup which is going to measure the specific capacitance, but specific capacitance, as I said, it is the intrinsic property. It is only going to be changed after changing the electrode material. So you see, electrode materials is having direct control over its specific capacitance of any supercapacitor. Whereas whatever electrolyte you are taking, just you see the electrolyte, maybe the solid, maybe a liquid, maybe the gel type, whatever you are taking, its role is of operating voltage. What voltage you are to develop, that is the responsibility of your electrolyte materials. Similarly, this is said to be the equivalent series resistance. So this equivalent series resistance is the responsibility of this packaging. How you are doing the packaging. If your packaging is not clean and conducting materials, your RES value is going to be increased. If RES value is going to be increased, then there is a IR drop, there is some frequency, with respect to frequency, their response is not going to be good. And in that way, this packaging is important. So remember, packaging allows this internal resistance or equivalent series resistance, electrolyte responsible for the operating voltage, and the electrode materials, their mass loading depends the specific capacitance. So ultimately, these three factors are there which are actually responsible for the overall supercapacitor cell performance. So remember, these three materials, these three parameters are actually the role of this electrolyte, electrode, electrolyte, and packaging. So all three factors are very, very important in order to decide the performance parameter of any supercapacitor. Sometimes you may ask that where actually how these devices are going to be put with respect to these where these materials are going to be put. So in that purpose, you can see for that region, you can see very easily that these materials are going to be just putting over the somewhere, you can say, where these renewable energy sources has been installed. They can be put even the base of those whatever you are having, those base materials in the base of your buildings, or you can on the roof of the building where solar panel you are going to put in solar panels, their base they can put the supercapacitors, and they can utilize the storage ability, or for storing purpose they can utilize those energy what has been harvesting, what has been produced from the different renewable energy sources like this windmill or the solar cell, whatever you know better. Now, actually, just I would like to make your attention over the equations, fundamental equations, actually, which is going to be utilized for the supercapacitor performance, how their fundamentals, you can say, equations are going to be deployed, or how they are going to be utilized. So you see, if EIS spectroscopy, it is very clear from the Nyquist plot, you are going to measure RV value, that is the electrolyte resistance. You are going to measure the charge transfer resistance, and you are going to measure the equivalent series resistance. That is the straightforward based on the graph and the semicircle nature or the spike nature. You can measure all three resistance value. But once you are going to become the analysis of cyclic voltammetry, you be very much peculiar, and your understanding need to be very clear that in cyclic voltammetry, there are different functions, and how they are going to work, you be very punctual, very peculiar, that how they are going to be looked so far. In the cyclic voltammetry, since this is always being plotted between current versus voltage, so it has been seen that current versus voltage plot of CV is going to be turned up at different scanning rate. So if you are going to make a relation between scanning rate versus the current versus the scanning rate, then it is going to give a relation that is said to be sigma I is equal to a scan rate power b. B is a constant factor. And if this b factor is 1, then this is said to be the capacitive type storage material. This is said to be the capacitive type storage material. This is the EDLC type supercapacitors. And once this value is going to become 0.5, this is said to be the diffusion limited charge storage mechanism, and that is said to be the battery type supercapacitor. Pseudo capacitor, actually I am talking that pseudo capacitor is consisting of battery nature as well as the EDLC nature both. So it's somewhere reflecting between 0.25 to 1. If value is going to come, then this is going to say to be the pseudo capacitors. So this total current is going to become I capacitive plus I diffusion. And if you are going to make log of this value of current, then you are going to get log of plus b of log of scan rate. And if you are going to make a graph between log I versus log scan rate, you are going to get a slope, and that slope is going to define you what is its value and what is the nature of your supercapacitor. It is pseudo, EDLC, or the hybrid supercapacitor. I must actually tell you, since this is the 2 hours lecture, so I was not going actually trying to go only in the showing our results part only. I want to give you some basic idea that by which you can initiate your research in supercapacitors, since a huge number of research is going on in this supercapacitors since last 1 to 2 years. So I am just giving you an idea by which you can go through it, and you can even start the supercapacitor applications in your own lab. So how in cyclic voltammetry, normally you used to get the graph in this way. If you see this graph, in this graph you can see it that it starts from V1 to V2. This graph showing that this is for charging. Capacitor is charging, your supercapacitor is charging. Whereas from here to here, you see your supercapacitor is going to be discharged. This is to be seen in the supercapacitor. It is to be seen in the supercapacitors, EDLC type supercapacitor CV. So you already know that capacitance is, capacitance is equal to Q upon V as per standard equation definition. So if you are going to make the specific capacitance, then specific capacitance is going to be just shown by C. P, this is subscript. Forgive me. This is subscript. So Cp is equal to this Q is going to become I into del T, and this whatever the voltage is there, and for specific you are just making it the divide with the mass. Why? Since this is specific capacitance, so you are going to divide by mass, that with mass, unit mass, how much the capacitance, that is said to be the specific capacitance. If you divide numerator and denominator both by this time, then you are going to get I upon M into V upon T. You see, this I upon M, V upon T is said to be the scan rate. If someone have performed this, then it is always, this is scan rate, means this voltage upon time. This used to be applied for different scan rate. This is scan rate. And if V upon T, I used to put K, then straightforward you can say that this current is equal to specific capacitance multiplied by the mass multiplied by the scan rate. Now, if you consider this CV of this EDLC type materials, then you can see that in the above CV, it can say that current changes on changing potential. Means you see whatever currents you are looking, that current is not individual. Each and every current value is associated with potential. So whatever currents you are getting, that is dependent on potential. So that I is whatever you are looking here. To calculate total value of current, you have to make its integration. So if you are going to make integrations, what you are going to do? You are going to make its integration from V1 to V2. So this is going to become V1 to V2, both types, both the left and right side integrations, and you are going to left with that this is the capacitance, and this capacitance in this case, you see, actually you require the this much. Actually this is IV dV. If I used to say this is going to calculating by the area. Since you see y-axis is current I and x-axis is potential. So if you are going to multiply this vertical versus horizontal, you are going to get the area. So this IV dV is nothing, it's the area of CV curve. This area of CV curve is going to give you the capacitance value. Not capacitance only, that is capacitance multiplied by the mass multiplied by the K. So just if you are going to do their integrations, then what you are going to left with? If you see, you are going to left with this specific capacitance mass into K into V2 minus V1. That V2 minus V1, what you have seen just from V2 minus V1 for getting the complete potential. But actually, if you see that area, you cannot calculate directly, rather than you have to calculate the charging. This area total means you have to just bifurcate it in three regions. One region is this is charging. If you are going to calculate its area, this is going to give you the complete this much area. Thereafter, just you calculate A2, that is this charging area. And just after, if you are going to differentiate, make a difference between this charging and discharging, then you are going to get the final area of your CV graph. So you can see here area A1 when capacitor is charging. At that time, if you are going to take the area, that time what actually going to happen? It is Cp m into K, and here this is actually self only this Cp m and K. These value are the constant for any material. So only integrations has been done for dV. So for dV, it is going to give you the V2 minus V1. So in this case, if you see, its area is changing from V1 to V2. So its graph is, its integration is going to give you V2 minus V1. But here, if you see, it starts from V2 and it has gone to V1. So for area A2, this is going to become V1 minus V2. If you want to calculate the complete area of CV curve, then you have to subtract this one from here. If you are going to subtract, you are going to left with this value, that 2 times Cp into mass into scan rate V2 minus V1. So from here, straightforward, you can find it out. Cp value specific capacitance is equal to area upon 2 into m into K V2 minus V1. Just you see, only just in CV you calculate this area and divide it by what much the active mass you are used in your as electrode, what scan rate you are talking so far for this where you are calculating it, and what is the potential difference. Just you put this value, you are going to get the specific capacitance. If you want to make it more clear using unit wise, then you can see area having the unit of, since area is current versus potentials, so its unit is always ampere volt. And if you see this mass having the unit of gram, this K scan rate having the unit of voltage as second inverse. If you see V2 minus V1 unit, it is the voltage. So you can see, and this potential and potentials get cancelled out. You are going to left with ampere, this ampere having ampere, and this second inverse is going to be up. So ampere second is going to become Q. Q means this is going to be Coulomb, and this gram as it is, and this volt as it is. So you see, Coulomb per volt is said to be the farad, and G is said to be the mass. So farad per gram is the unit. So you can see this is the capacitance you are going to calculate from CV directly. If you see the second is charging discharging, that is the galvanometric. Remember, this is used. This techniques of calculation is used for the EDLC, for the pseudo type, and for the battery type, for all. But in case of charging discharging, that is galvanostatic charge discharge analysis, in that you have to, for EDLC, if you are using the symmetric cell, then you have to take its, you again, C is equal to Q upon V, Q is equal to I into del T, V is equal to potential difference and mass. So specific capacitance you are going to calculate directly. Here this del T is discharging time and this is discharging voltage. So, and this is current rate. Actually, this I over M is said to be the current density. So this 2 is going to be put for symmetric cell configurations, And if it is asymmetric, then this 2 is not to be there for EDLC pseudocapacitors. Energy density is going to be calculated using the half CV square, that you already aware that energy is equal to half CV square in electrostatic field or electrostatic potential. So it is going to be calculated directly from here. This 3.6 is here. In order to change only second to this hours, since we are used to measure power density in watt, so for that reason we are watt is consisting of hour. So for that reason we have to divide by 3600, and in dividing it 3600, it is going to be mass is there. So mass is going to be changed from gram to kilogram. 1000 is going to be cancelled out. It is left with 3.6. And similarly, this is for energy density. For power density, you have to multiply by the 3600 directly. So this is for the symmetric cell. For asymmetric cells, as I told, only you are going to not put 2. The rest of the things are same. For the asymmetric supercapacitors of EDLC type, for battery type, you be very careful that it is going to measure the capacity rather than the capacitance. What is the difference between capacity and capacitance? A specific capacity always going to be measured in terms of the charge. In terms of the charge is the, means you can say coulomb, whereas capacitance is going to be measured in terms of coulomb per volt. So remember, if there is unit is given that milliampere hour, then it means this is given the charge. Milliampere hour means this is Q. If it is given in coulomb, it is Q. But if it is given in coulomb per volt, that is farad, then it is means you are talking about the EDLC type material. So remember, if battery type, you are talking about the coulomb or milliampere hour. If you are talking about the EDLC type, you are talking about the farad or coulomb per volt. For this capacity from the discharging time, directly you can calculate it from the current, again the discharging time over the mass, and 3.6, this I upon m is said to be the current density also. Coulombic efficiency also you can calculate based on the discharging time over the charging time. As we were saying that the EDLC is going to be controlled by the surface control phenomenon, and this battery type is of diffusion control phenomenon. This is again going to be estimated based on these 2 equations. These 2 equations is actually this total charge is going to be in a relation that is said to be the Q naught plus K1 is this potential scan rate power minus 1/2. And if you are going to take it inverse, then it is QT plus K2 V power 1/2. If you are going to make a plot between this QV versus scan rate power minus 1/2, then certainly you are going to get a slope between, since that is going to become y is equal to mx plus c. That slope is going to define you are K1 value and K2 value. And if you are going to make QV versus scan rate power minus 1/2, whatever intercept you are getting, that is said to be the Q naught. And if you are going to make a graph between its inverse, UV inverse versus scan rate power 1/2, at that time, whatever is this intercept you are getting, that intercept is going to give you the QT. But then you see, if you are going to understand or you are going to know the QT value and Q naught both, if you are knowing QT and Q naught, then QI can be calculated very easily. So you can find it out, QI value, that is to be diffusion control, and that is the surface control. You can directly calculate from this intercept. So these things are going to be helpful in order to deviate that if somewhere the mixing of battery type and this EDLC type behavior both are mixed together, and for segregating those 2 behavior in your analysis of cyclic voltammetry or EDLC, in the GCD, you are going to use this diffusion control and surface control phenomenon in order to understand better transportation of charge carriers within the supercapacitors. In order to, this is the basics or fundamentals of this about the characterizations. Similarly, if you want to prepare this supercapacitor types of materials, even for the electrolyte, one representative figures already I have discussed. For electrode materials, just I am going to discuss 2-3 techniques in a very quick manner. that it is a very standard techniques one is going to be used, that is the hydrothermal. Actually, hydrothermal method is there. That is a very you can say convenient, and again it is a very robust, that it is going to prepare the material within 2 to 3 hours. So what actually they are doing, they are actually putting the those materials into a Teflon. Actually, first materials are going to be dissolved somewhere in a beakers, and in a distilled water, actually double distilled water, they are going to be put, and thereafter they are going to be mixed properly. Sometimes people are going to be used carbon cloth or nickel foam in between, and they are going to be transferred to the this Teflon liner, and those Teflon liner are going to be transferred into the furnace, and in furnace there is temperature defined. You are going to put it for 120, 150 or 80 degrees centigrade, depends on the nature of your materials. These nature of materials you are going to get from your literature survey. You are going to find it out, and you are going to pass there, and you are going to find out you are going to prepare your materials very easily using hydrothermal. Even salothermal, if you are going to use other solvent instead of double distilled water, the same techniques are going to be transferred into the salothermal techniques. That is said to be the salothermal techniques. So hydrothermal or salothermal techniques are going to be used to prepare this electrode material. Similarly, the other techniques is sol gel techniques. Actually, this is again a very you can say standard techniques people are using for preparing of nanomaterials. This is standard techniques, and it's a very easy. You can see this is again you are using the solutions. What solutions you require? Actually, you are putting your materials there. You are putting on steering with a constant temperatures, and at the same time their solution is going to be formed, and thereafter if you are going to make it constant heating with a 50 to 60 degree temperatures, they are going to form a gel. Thereafter it is zero gel, and thereafter it is going to be taken it out, and their grinding is going to be done, and they are going to transfer at high temperature for calcination, or you can say for the sintering of the materials, and you are going to get the electrode powder for further characterization. Similarly, this is a standard Szilard techniques. Actually, here absorptions and desorptions are going to occur. Here anionic and cationic solutions are going to be put, and those once cations are going to be get deposited, thereafter taking it out and wash it properly. Thereafter they are going to again dip in the anionic solution, then take it out, washing it again properly, then cationic, anionic. These types of 10 to 15 repetitions are going to occur based on what thickness of materials you want to grow over your substrate. Most of the times people are using stainless steel with 304 grade, and they are going to deposit the materials using the Szilard techniques. This is again a very convenient and cheaper technique. One can start their preparation of electrode materials using these techniques. For your information, just I'm giving in a very brief that what are important characterizations are going to be performed for the supercapacitor applications. So although I'm not going to discuss all these, but just I'm going to give you a glimpse of all these techniques, what actually they are useful, what actually we are going to measure from why we are performing these characterization techniques. If you see the X-ray diffraction techniques, it is basically used for supercapacitor electrode to confirm the formation of materials, to check the crystallinity of the materials, which is going to be calculated using any of the techniques, either ritual refinement you are going to do, or using the different manual way you are going to calculate this crystallinity. At the same time, you are going to measure their parameters of ABC, alpha, beta, gamma, or whatever you de-spacing, or you are going to bond length, whatever you want, those things for X-ray diffractions are going to be measured. Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy also going to perform in order to make confirm that what your materials you have prepared, what functional groups are going to be present there, how those functional groups are interacting one to others. Similarly, field scanning electron microscopy is going to perform in order to find the morphology of the sample, even to find the particle size, and porosity of the materials. XPS is also to perform in order to find the essential composition of the materials. Electrochemical impedance, electrochemical analysis is a very important. That again, I am going to discuss some more examples what already being available, that I am going to discuss with you about those, what materials actually going to, what electrode materials is going to show the EDLC behavior, what are going to show the battery type behavior, what are going to show the pseudo behavior. Those things I am going to discuss. But in this also, EIS spectroscopy is electrochemical impedance spectroscopy is going to measure to the conductivity impedance in terms of the ESR, in terms of the RCT, in terms of the RC, or the capacitance is going to be measured directly from the EIS spectroscopy. Cyclic voltammetry is used in order to find the specific capacitance, energy density, power potential window. All these things are going to be measured using the cyclic voltammetry. Static charge discharge cycle is going to be used in order to find the specific capacitance of the electrode material, ESR, energy, power density, and the cyclability, stability of the cycles. How many cycles your materials are going to be stable, that is going to confirm by the GCD analysis. So as I said, some more clear examples just I'm going to take in front of you, that these are the materials which are going to, how they are going to show the, so if you are going to take the materials here, if you see oxide materials, or you see this hydroxide materials you are taking, then you are going to get the pseudo type of materials. This is the pseudo type materials you are looking here. If you are taking the carbon materials, then you are going to get in this way. And if you are taking the layered double hydroxide materials, means this is for layered double hydroxide, they are going to give you in this way presentation, which is going to show you the battery type, pseudo type, and the EDLC type materials. Similarly, if you are going to perform this oxide materials, then they are showing you the this rectangular nature. If you are showing the this layered double hydroxide, it is showing you the distorted, or you can say diffused rectangular pattern, and they are going to look like in this way. And if you are taking the oxide hydroxide materials, in that case you see they are going to give you the peak, and these are going to give you, these are for the your battery type materials of this CV pattern. You can just see very clearly. For the if you GCD pattern, you see for GCD pattern, again the oxide materials you can see it looks like in this way, but GCD patterns are layered double hydroxide materials, it is looking like this way, and for the oxide hydroxide materials it is going to look in this pattern. So you can see, you can make it clear that this is the battery type materials, this is the pseudo type materials, and this is linear relationship is there, that its variation charging and discharging is linearly, it is going to happen. So this is to be the EDLC type materials. Similarly, if you consider the example of hydroxide and oxyhydroxide, hydroxide and oxyhydroxide materials, in that case, all three patterns just you see from impedance, you can see it, this oxide and this aluminum hydroxide and iron oxyhydroxide materials are there. Their impedance looks like in this way, and they are going to fit by this simulated, actually these are the impedance simulated theoretically, actually this is fitted pattern. So by fitting, you can see this is fitting these parameters, and from here you are going to measure this RCT value. There you can measure the this is the your electrode interface. This you can the solution resistance. This is charge transfer resistance. All things you are going to measure. Similarly, here you can say this is after this aluminum this iron oxyhydroxide having this much area. Just after introducing the aluminum hydroxide, area is going to be changed drastically. But our purpose is here to show you, to make you aware that materials, how they are going to show different types of advanced materials which are useful for the novel applications of different battery type, pseudo type, or EDLC application. So this is showing the pseudo type behavior. In charging discharging, you can see, actually I'm not discussing right now, but this sudden fall of this discharging is just showing the IR drop, and this IR drop is because of the packaging. Actually in packaging, if ESR value is very large, then this IR drop is going to happen. So that is a very, very important thing. You have to minimize it. It is a very much detrimental for any supercapacitor device. You may take the ternary composites. In ternary composites also you can see this is showing the pseudo type behavior, but its capacitance value is a very, very large, and it is a very promising materials. People are using it, and this ternary composites is now people are trying too much in order to improve the capacity, and but with ternary composite, this IR drop is a very, very severe, that is need to be taken out, and it has to be reduced in order to make it successful. Also, it having a huge value of capacitance, but because of these drawbacks, it has to be taking more concern. Other, you can say transition metal dichalconides. If you consider, this is also people are using metal dichalconides and transition metal dichalconides in order to improve the capacitance and the energy density and power density. So you can take see their pattern. If it is to be the only the transition metal dichalconides, it is having the EDLC nature. Once it is having just docked with the RGO, it is going to become the pseudo type. In both the things you can see, but in this case, this IR drop is very small value, so it can be tolerable. This is actually how this electrode is going to be actually performed, actually how this is going to be prepared, the materials, actually material fabrications, how is going to be done. That is just how we have prepared in our actual laboratory, that is just shown here. You can consider that just prepared materials is going to be put in a, you can say they are going to put in a NMP. Actually, this is NMP is there, in that they are going to put these two prepared materials and with carbon black and this conducting polymer and make a slurry over there, and that slurry is going to be coated over this nickel foam, and that nickel foam is just going to be this electrolyte. Actually, we have taken here the sodium hydroxide 6 molar sodium hydroxide electrolyte. This is the liquid electrolyte here we have taken, and that liquid electrolyte basically is going to be poured over this this Wattmann paper. Actually, this Wattmann paper is there. Wattmann paper taken as a separator. It has been poured by this sodium hydroxide electrolyte, and it is going to be get sandwich. Actually, this separator with electrolyte is going to be get put in between the two symmetric electrodes. Actually, this symmetric two electrodes are there, up coated on nickel foam. This two is going to be put here, and on top this is the nickel foam. Both sides this is nickel foam, and LED is going to be put here in order to make it glow. So if you see the arrangement, what has been done in our laboratory, even that these three small pieces of these materials are going to be connected in series, and they are going to use in order to grow this LED. And if I used to tell you what actually mechanism involving here, since the materials what I shown you over the as a fabricated device, these materials actually of pseudo nature. So for pseudo nature, actually what happening, whatever the once you are having the potential difference, the charges actually whatever the charges are there, positive charges, they will try to come in the directions of positive charges will try to come towards the negative side of electrodes, and negative charges will try to go towards the positive side electrodes. So just you say the electrolyte, whatever electrolytes you are having, since separator having the pore, through this pore, those charges, ionic charges can migrate from one side to other side or this side to other side. So they are just transferring from one electrode to other electrode, but you see they are not going to enter into here, means within the electrode materials, they are not going to be there. Even the static charge, whatever available in the materials of this electrode, they are going to sit over their electrode in a different nature, and these whatever the negative charges are there, they are going to be stand here alone. So here, since oxidation and the oxidation occurs and they are delivering, liberating the electrons, so they are going to say to the pseudo type supercapacitors. And similarly, this is having during the charging. When fully charged is there, they are going to look like in this way. You see, positive charges are there, then isolated negative charges are solvated negative charges, both are going to arise here. And since here the oxidation happens, so this is going to mix of oxidation reductions and static charge accumulation. This is going to say the pseudo plus EDLC type, both types of mechanism involved here. So these are the things has been whatever being shown here. These are the small things, whatever it is shown. This is the carbon black. Whatever this is to be shown here, this is to be the PiO2 nanoparticles. These are the things what is to be you can as a you can say it is to be given or it is to be shown for better understanding. So as we have only, I think, not much more time. So I'm just finishing it here for query. If someone have any query, you please ask for your query session. I'm just going to stop my presentation here, but I'm not going to stop my presentation without acknowledging our research scholar who have actually contributed in order to this journey. So those scholars may be the that already gone, who has already completed his PhD, Dr. Anil Arya, Ms. Shweta Tanwar, Ms. Simran Kaur, Mr. Nirbhay Singh, Mr. S.K. Sharma. They are actually who are working in the laboratory day and night, and they are giving the inputs by which I could perform here or I could just present in front of you people. Now, thank you to you all. Now it's I will be happy if someone is going to ask some questions in order to responding those things. I'll be very happy. Yes.
Any question from participants?
Yes, I have one question for Professor Sharma.
Please, sir, please.
What is the necessity for this separator in your supercapacitor?
Sir, actually, if you are going to use the solution, actually, if you are using the electrolyte solution electrolyte,
Yes.
at that time, actually, sir, it requires. If you are going to make the solid film, then it is not required.
Okay, but why we need separator?
Separator, actually, sir, if electrolyte is there, you see that if you are going to, since if electrolyte is in between, you are going to compact the system. In order to compact the systems, your electrolyte is in between there. So your electrolyte need to put in such a way that they are, means your electrolyte are not, electrodes are not going to touch to one to another. Since if electrolyte is in between, you are separating it by any film. You just make a electrolyte using a transparent, you say, if it is going to migrate, then it need to be, those electrodes need to be separated. For separating it, actually this separator requires, sir.
And what is the maximum voltage to which you can charge your supercapacitor?
Sir, it depends actually, voltage depends again as what electrolyte actually you are using there. If you are having the liquid electrolyte, then you can go for what you are the film actually you are taking. You can go for the 3 to 4 volt, even 5 volt you can go through. But if you are having the solid, then that electrolyte actually potential stability is going to be down. So it is 1 to 2 volt normally.
Okay. And what is the time for which it gives energy? I mean,
sir, actually, what actually it again depends actually the for time. If you are looking, then again how much load you are applying, sir. Actually,
yes.
If they are drawing the lesser energy, then it will go for the longer time. If you are putting a load of very heavy load like fan or all these things, what actually we are in laboratory we are performing, then in for LED it is going for half an hour. But if you are putting any fan, then in 2 to 3 minutes it is going to be dead. But it's actually very rough actually, sir, what actually we are doing in laboratory. But in if you are going for commercialized purpose, actually they are having a very small, it's you can consider it's a 0.2 centimeter by 0.2 centimeter areas with 3 electrodes we have taken. So in that they are performing this one. If you are just increasing the size, then ultimately our energy density value is going to be increased, sir.
Okay, okay. Very nice presentation. Thank you.
Please,
Sir, there is one question from my side.
please.
Can you suggest some supercapacitor materials on which the research can be done? As I have studied the literature about CCTO materials. Is there any other material other
Madam,
than
actually,
CCTO?
what material actually right now I have talked, either it is oxide materials, oxide hydroxide material, hydroxide, oxyhydroxide material, transition metal dichalconides material, metal chalconides material, all are burning materials right now. Actually, people are working on these materials. I have not shown you the data any old. This is all data are up to 2020 to 21. It's not earlier from 2020. So all these materials you can choose anyone and just you see go through the literatures that what actually people are using. If suppose transition metal dichalconides, MoSe2, some people are using, just you look for the tungstens. What about the tungsten? If tungsten they are using, just you make its correlation that oxyhydroxide is giving a good performance. So just make a clump of binary of oxyhydroxide and transition metal dichalconides. At the same time, you may go for the ternary even. What ternary? I just show you ternary composites. For ternary composites, they are giving good this energy density and capacitance value of this ternary composite. So you can go for the ternary composites even. But ternary composites actually just started. Less people are working over it.
Okay,
Yes.
sir.
Yes.
Sir,
Yes.
and what are the synthesis method of preparing supercapacitor other than hydrothermal?
Yeah, actually, what you are preparing, if you are from the experimental scholar, then certainly you are using the Sol-Gel techniques, standard one, or you are using the standard ceramic route, that is solid state. You may be going through. You may go through this if you are knowing then what you are means Silar method. Actually, what I just discussed here, you can go through the Silar. They are doing microwave synthesis method. Actually, people are using the microwave synthesizer with different company. You can go through. You can go through this what your spray techniques. What your spray techniques you can use it. You can even go through the deposition of thin films. Not even the material. For thin films, a number of techniques are available. For thin films, they are actually more useful. Actually, they are for the supercapacitor. Then you can go through whatever the nanomaterials preparation you are using. You can take it out directly.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, sir, for giving fruitful information on the topic supercapacitor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, all participants are requested to join again at 2:30 p.m. Our resource person will join us sharp at 2:30. Thank you. Thank you.